Good afternoon, and good evening for friends from all over the world. Thank you so much for joining the landscape of Vietnam wind energy market. My name is Max, Program Manager of the PBox. I'm very happy to be the moderators of today's webinar. As we know that Vietnam has made its first large wind power project in 2012, and after almost 7 years of the slow-paced development, this market began to take off after the feed-in tariff was improved as standards of commercial profitable in 2008. And now the latest development plan is going to be released, which will determine where the sector to go. And we are expecting offshore wind, which has been overlooked for years from the plan, will be probably included and determined in its target for 2025 and 2030 this time. And in today's webinar, we are going to introduce you this market and let you know what is going on with it and its promising future. And joining me today, we have 4 experts. We have Wen Kwangming, Deputy Director of the Power System Department of ERAV, Gunnar Herzig, Managing Director of the Wind Forum Offshore Wind, and Oliver Messman, partner at Stuart Morris, and Huang Yan, Deputy General Managers of Neon Smart Energy. And to provide you most understanding of the webinar, this is the agenda. And in the first few of the slides, I will give you a brief introduction of the PBox, the organizer, and our speakers. Then we'll be jumping to the presentations. Wen Kwangming is going to provide a general look of this market from opportunities and challenges. And Gunnar Herzig is going to let you know why the offshore wind should not be overlooked. And Oliver and Dr. Oliver Messman will drop as an information bomb of the market intelligence to introduce you the market, basically from A to Z. And lastly, we will experience more technical levels of the wind power project development with Huang Yan. For example, from how to develop a project to meet a timeline, and also some projects they did in a different country. The webinar is supposed to be kept in 90 minutes, and until after the presentations were ended, the remaining time would be the Q&As. As you can see that there are raise your hand, pool, and also Q&A. On the left hand of your screen. If you have any questions for our speakers, please feel free to submit your questions by hitting the Q&A buttons. And considering the reason that Mr. Ming, Wen Kwangming, his limited time, yes, I do encourage you guys to submit the questions specifically for him, because after his presentations, we will go quickly Q&A. After that, I will turn this stage to Gunnar Herzig and pass to another speakers. And as I said before, who we are, or PBox. PBox, ENERGYBOX, is a vertical media company dedicated to the renewable energy. And we are headquartered in China. We are one of the top 3 most influential media in our domestic market. And also to enhance the business cooperation across the land and inland, and also to promote green energy. Our event held around the world, Europe, South Africa, and South Asia. And up to now, we have 12 events in record across the world. And besides, we provide professional and customized promotion plans for our clients to helping them achieve their goals by our networking, such as a publication, online platform, international conference, forum, and so on. Then moving to our speakers, Wen Kwangming, Deputy Director of Power System Department of ERAV. So what is the ERAV, Electricity Regulatory Authorities of Vietnam? Its duty is to advise and assist the Minister of Industry and Trade in managing the state and organizing law enforcement in the field of regulating electricity activities. And Mr. Ming have worked in ERAV for 13 years. He has a rich experience in national and professional power system planning, development, management, power supply and demand balance, and power system operating monitoring, and so on. And Gunnar Herzig, Managing Director at the World Forum Offshore Wind, or WFO in shorten. WFO is the world's first organization exclusively dedicated to the foresting offshore wind grows worldwide. It was funded by international company representing the entire offshore wind value chain. Ghana has over 10 years experience in the renewable energy industry and focusing on offshore wind. Previously, Ghana worked for a German energy company, RWE. During his career at RWE, he held the positions of investment manager, offshore wind, and portfolio manager. And Dr. Oliver Masman, partner as Duane Morris. He's also an international attorney at Norse and a certified financial accountant and auditor. He has over 20 years experience as a commercial lawyer in Vietnam and received several awards from the Minister of Justice in Hanoi. And he has expertise in commercial and legal framework of World Trade Organization, expertise in advising on turnkey renewable energy project in Vietnam. He's also the only foreign lawyer member to the supervisory board of Petro Vietnam GSC Holding Insurance Corporations, Vietnam's largest industry insurer, and board members of German Business Association Vietnam. And Mr. Quang Yen, Deputy General Manager of Mingyang Smart Energy. Mingyang Smart Energy, headquartered in Zhongshan, Guangdong Province, China, provide including the designing, development, and manufacturing of high-end new energy equipment, large capacity wind turbine, and their opponent, as well as maintenance serve and investment in new energy sectors. And now it has become a leading smart energy group in China and gained reputations around the world with some proven records, including but not limited to the Mingyang, was ranked 38 in the list of the world's top 500 new energy companies, and the first global offshore wind innovation list in 2018 and 2016, respectively. And kick off the webinar, the first presentation will be given by Mr. Wen Quangming. He will be looking at the Vietnam energy market from policy and regulations. Hello, Mr. May.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Should I meet you as the presenter or yes?
Yeah. For me, 1 second.
Okay.
Can you see my screen?
No.
No?
Yes, I can. It's excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Max, for introducing me. Because know that today is because of the COVID-19, so we could not face-to-face meeting and event. So we should have the webinar, the conference. But no problem. I'm very happy to be here to share with you some of the information, including in the past as well as the updated information and some the information for the future, near future, in terms of the development of wind energy in Vietnam. As my content actually is I only have the 20 minutes, so but my presentation may be longer than the 20 minutes. So if you want to have clear and more content, that you can send me the kind of the communication I will provide and respond to you. And the first one is I would like to give you some updated power system in Vietnam, and the next one is the policy, the legal framework, and the wind potential in Vietnam. And the other one is the opportunity and challenges for you if you want to invest and if you're interested in the wind energy in Vietnam. And the last one is the trend and some the direction and some the orientation in the future. So the first one is the power system in Vietnam. You know that in Vietnam we are the developing country, but we have a very high growth rate of the electricity demand. 10 years ago until now, is the average growth rate of demand is more than 10%. It's very huge, and it's a good the development, but it is the challenges of Vietnam when we want to make a balance between the demand and supply of power. And the second one is, you know, that the picture of the installed capacity of the generation in Vietnam by the end of the 2019. Actually, from the end of 2019 until now, the picture is not quite different. because the development of the wind, solar, and the other kind of the traditional generation is not have achieved more because COVID-19. And you can see that the wind is too small by the end of 2019, and the solar is we have the very the good development in last year, and but the contribution of the wind and solar in our system is still small, maybe around the 9% of the installed capacity. In terms of the electricity production by generation, you can see that coal, thermal, and hydro is the main generation in Vietnam, and the solar and wind quite small, and then hopefully this year still small, and next year, maybe after next year, we will have more the solar and wind, hopefully. In terms of transmission system, is we state that is the infrastructure system is very important, like the transportation, like the road, like the highway, something like this. If you don't have any enough the capacity of the transmission system, including the distribution system, you could not transfer anything you want, including the energies and generated by the solar and the wind from the center, from the north to the south, something like this. In terms of the future, until now, I'm very sorry, I only repeat some of the data and some of the figure of the revised master plan number 7, because we are developing the master plan number 8, and at the moment we don't have any official information about the future, about the demand growth rate in the future. But you can see that, and I think that in the master plan, the growth rate of the demand is still high, maybe 9 or 10% per year, and after the 2025 maybe decrease to 7 to 8% per year. But I think that 7 or 8% per year is still high, and it's one of the challenges for Vietnam to make to balance between the demand and supply. Really, the potential and the current policy for wind. I guess that only you know that you have general information about the wind potential in Vietnam as well as the policy, and we believe that we state that Vietnam we has a lot of the potential of wind, including the onshore and offshore energy, wind energy in Vietnam. And but you can see that if the potential of wind focus concentrate in the central region, the highland, and the south region. Actually in the north region is not too much, and only focus on in some very typical province in the north, like Quảng province or Quảng Ngãi, something like this, but it's not too much if we compare with the central region and the south. And in terms of the wind speed, we based on some updated the study developed and carried out by the GIS and by the Institute of Energy in Vietnam, and you can see that in general we have very good the wind speed in Vietnam, and focus on in the south central coast, and focus on in the highland and the south. In terms of the offshore, is the new, actually is the new content in Vietnam, but I think that in very near future is the very hot topic and hot development in Vietnam. And you can see that Vietnam, we have the advantage of the country, because we have the very long coastal line, more than 3,000 kilometers, and the sea level is quite high, and more than 1 million. And you can see that in terms of based on the study, very general study of the World Bank, And yes, the technical potential of the offshore wind in Vietnam very high, more than 200 gigawatt. It and depend on the water depth. Like you can see, if the water depth less than 50 meter, the potential may be more than what 260 gigawatt, and this, like the floating is more than 214 gigawatt.
Excuse me, Mr.
Yes.
Excuse me, Miss Ming. Sorry for the interruptions. We are still in the first slide. Our audience cannot catch up with you.
Sorry?
We are still in the first slide.
My first slide?
We can only see the first slide.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, let me check.
Yeah, we cannot catch up with you.
Now we can see?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. Okay,
Sorry
I will.
Yes.
You can see? Sorry, why you don't interrupt me as soon as possible. So I come back to my slide number 9 to talking about the offshore wind potential. And you can see that in Vietnam, the offshore we have very high potential of offshore wind energy. But move to the policy is very important in Vietnam, because you know that in Vietnam the legal framework system is very complicated. It means that we have the law. After belong to law, we have the decree, decision, resolution, and we have the circular and regulation. It means that in order to, if you want to understand all the real legal framework and policy in Vietnam in terms of the renewable energy, you should study and read carefully our legal framework system. And until now, you know that we have the new one of the policy when the political bureaus approve and issue the resolution number 55 in February. It means that it's the one of the critical and the key regulation to have Vietnam and to have any kind of the stakeholder in terms of the energy sector will have the overview picture for the development of the power energies in Vietnam in the future. And some of the specific decision you can know. I guess that you know well about the decision 37 in 2011 and decision 39 in 2018. And you know, decision 39 is a very attractive decision after the PM issued the decision 39. We received a lot of resistance for the development of the wind in Vietnam, and one of the main content is that the fit in tariff, the fit 2, not fit 1, is the higher than the fit 1. Like the onshore is the 8.5 Western per kilowatt-hour, and offshore is the 9.8. But you also have the various challenges, because in the decision 39 you should complete your project and complete the COD procedure before November of 2021. It means that from now we only have around less than 1.5 year to finish complete the project. And the next one of the policy after the PM have the decision 39, the MOIT, the Ministry of Industry and Trade, issued the circular number 2. Is to have detailed guideline for the developer and investor. And one of the new content is that the wind measure you should have at least 20 months before complete the MS. It means that in general, if you don't have enough 20 months of the wind measure, you could not receive the approval of FS job project before you move to the construction phase. And some the other conditions like for construction or the COD or some the responsibility of the event, the buyer already identified very detailed in the circular too. And move to the practical status. Actually, is the status of the wind energy in Vietnam at the moment. You know that we have the wind energy contribution in Vietnam is quite small. Only is more than 400 megawatt is operating, and we have around more than 30 plants is under construction with the capacity more than 1,600 megawatt. And you already know some identify some the main and the high potential province in Vietnam, as I talked before, in the central region and the southwest region. And until now, the MOIT and PM already approved more than 11,000, 12,000, maybe 12,000 megawatt of the wind. Because you know that the last week, the PM have to approve 91 wind project with the capacity around 7,000 megawatt. And before, MOIT and PM already approved the 94 plant with the capacity around 5,000 megawatt. It's been that until now, today, by today, there are more than 12 megawatt, around 12 megawatt of the wind, 12 megawatt thousand, sorry, 12,000 megawatt of the wind already in the approved in the master plan. And in terms of before it's the new one, so at the moment we already received 5 proposals, but very huge the capacity, like more than 10 kilowatt. In terms of the opportunity and challenges, actually the opportunity, as I talked before, now we have a lot of the opportunity from the government, from the ministry, from the local body, and any kind of stakeholder. We support for the renewable energy, including the wind. And some the detail and general policy already is used to support the developer and investor. And the other one from the technical side, you know that we will face with the unbalance between the demand and supply in the future, maybe in very near future, next year or next 5 years. It means that one of the reasons why is all kind of the traditional generation is delayed. It means that it's not complete on time. So the renewable energy development is one of the key solution for Vietnam to ensure that we don't have any problem of the demand and supply balance. So and in the south region is one of the critical region. It's been that in the south region now we have problem that we still have the unbalance between the demand and supply, and energy and electricity from the north and from the center should be transfer to the south region, and in the future the same problem. So it means that if you focus and support the wind energy development in the south and in the central region, is very good for Vietnam to make sure that the south region don't have any problem with the balance, with the demand and supply balance. And the challenges, the opportunity you have a lot, and the challenges, I think that in general we still have the challenges, a lot of challenges. Even you know that in Vietnam we have the lesson learned from the solar development, but you know that the wind development, I think that the challenges still happen if the investor or the developer you don't know and don't fully understand our situation as well as the policy, something like this. And the technical challenges, you know that one of the very familiar the topic 2 years ago and now is the problem is in terms of connection capacity of network. And at the moment, the solar power plant still have the curtailment in the real time and even in the future, near future. But for the wind, you know that now wind and solar, we have to raise. We have raised. It means that for connection, it means that if the network have enough the capacity, you could connect, you could operate, and you don't have curtailment, something like this. But if the network don't have enough the capacity, it means that the wind developer or the solar generation, you will face with the curtailment problem. But between the wind and solar, you know that they have some the quite and some the different, because in order to construct of the wind plant, it takes time longer than solar, and it's the challenges, but it's the good advantage for the grid owner, because if they will have more time to upgrade their network and their grid. And the other technical challenges, I don't want to repeat. And this is one of the experience from the European country like the Germany. You know that in Vietnam we have the same problem. The renewable energy concentrate and focus on the area has less consumer, has less demand. It means that almost of the capacity, almost of the electricity produced by the renewable energy should be transferred to the other place with a very long network. So it means that we should have the long and stronger network, stronger grid to transfer all the electricity from the less consumer area to the more consumer, more demand area. And the how can I say the solution? Actually, in Vietnam, we have a very good lesson learned from the developed solar development. So now we identify and we are carrying out a lot of the solution. And one of the critical solution for the short term and for the long term is the stakeholder, the utility, like the generator, like the investor, and the developer should comply with the regulation. And the second one is we should upgrade the network by some the solution, by the new network, or upgrade the existing network, something like this. And some the other solution is like the implement. You can socialize the transmission network, and at the moment we have some the case to apply the socialize the transmission network in Vietnam, like the wind, the solar power plant of the Trung Nam Group. They already have received the permission, approve PM to build and to construct their transmission network to connect to the power system. And the last one is the very short development change. And you think that for the onshore, at the moment we have more than 12 kilowatt for approval in the master plan, and the other one, the remaining, the register, and we should review, and hopefully in the future, near future, the MOIT and the PM could approve more. But how much, I don't know exactly. It depends on the capacity of the network. And we are developing the power master plan number 8. And in the master plan made, we will update the target of the wind in our system. And in terms of extent of the feed number 2 or feed number 3, something like this, actually the idea to extend the feed has been discussed and raised to discuss, and but the final decision at the moment is pending content. The option scheme, I think, is the we will apply the option scheme in the future, but when? I'm not sure that, but I think that is not for the long term. Maybe it's for the medium term. And you know, the Vietnam, we are finalize the pilot to apply the DPPA in our system. And at the moment, the PM already have the assignment, have the direction to request the MOT finalize the mechanism, and MOT should approve the pilot program to implement in the next 2 years or next 3 years. It depends on how we can finalize the legal framework for the pilot project. And the other one is power market and some the certificate and some solution to improve the penetration of the renewable energy in Vietnam is now studying and implementing. That's also my presentation very short because we have limited time and I don't have a lot of time today to talk meeting for you. But you can send me the message or email to have more detail and respond. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Min, for the presentations to introduce us the opportunity and challenges in this market. And I noticed some questions have been raised in the Q&A box. I think, Mr. Min, you can also check those questions with me. Let's see these questions. Lots of common questions. So I wonder if Ms. Min, can you see these questions? It's a little bit weird, you know, he's asking about solar. Although we are, it's a wind webinar. He asked why most of the solar project get a generation license for 1 year. Is there any chance to renew such license for next 19 years?
So that's not the case. Sorry, may I comment on that?
Yes, please.
Okay. So the question was whether the concession agreements are 1 year. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, that is not the case. That's simply not the case. The average PPA, power purchase agreement term for a solar project is 20 years. So that is simply not the case.
Okay.
I didn't see the specific question. Almost of the message is about how I can have the full screen of my presentation.
It's just asking about is there any chance to extend the license for next 19 years? I think Mr. Yes.
Okay,
Mr. Yes, please, Mr.
Okay, I can explain for you about the time of the licensing.
Yeah.
According to the regulation of the license, the regulation stipulates that in case the investor or the developer submit the document for getting the license, don't enough the requirement. It means that if you don't submit to meet the requirement of the license regulation, so you could receive the electricity license for 1 year. It means that from you get the license to next 1 year, if you submit all the pending document. But I think that the pending document is not the critical. It's not the critical issue. Easy to help you and support you to complete the pending document and to submit to us for to get the long-term license, like the 10 year. It means that you have 1 year to complete all the pending the issues, including all the pending document to get the 10-year licensing. Yeah.
Just to add on that, to add on this, is to make it very clear. If there are solar investors who want to apply for projects, who want to develop projects and implement projects in Vietnam, you have to apply for an electricity license for utility scale projects. But you can apply for a long-term license, and it is practice. I've closed 12 solar projects here, and it is common practice that, of course, we apply for a long-term license that is back-to-back with a PPA, 20 years. And in all of the cases, we got this long-term electricity selling license. Otherwise, nobody would finance these projects. Thank you.
Yes, I agree. I know your consideration. And you know that after 10-year licensing, you can expand. You can submit a very easy document to us to extend the one more 10-year license.
That's 20 years. Yes.
It's no problem. Yeah, it's not the you will not have the difficulties to extend the 10-year license.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much from the answers from Mr. Oliver and Mr. Ming. Yep. Yeah. Let's see another questions. I noticed some audience even ask about floating offshore wind. I think it's the most advanced because we are see. If my memory were right, it's a news from last month. It showed that Italian. They are building their first floating offshore wind. So they ask, what is the potential for floating wind in Vienna? Is there any possible to develop the floating wind in Vienna?
Yeah, you know that it is offshore wind energy in Vietnam is the new topic, but it's very hot development now. And based on the studies conducted by the World Bank and GSS, actually it's very general study. It's not the detail. It's the study states that the floating offshore wind. It means that the project has the water depth more than 50 meters in the water, in the sea water. You understand?
Yes.
In my presentation, let me show you again. Yeah. Let me show you my presentation with here. Like yes, you can see.
Yeah, you need to, you need to make yourself as a presenter so we can see you.
Yeah, floating it means that the water depth is less than 1,000 meters compared with the seawater.
Excuse me, Mr. Ming. We cannot see your screen.
Oh, really? Sorry.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my God.
We need to retry. Okay. Yeah, we got a visual.
Yes, the offshore is the floating offshore wind is will have the water depth less than 1,000 meters compared with the seawater level, and of course the water depth should higher than longer than the 50 meters. You can see the fish offshore is with the water depth less than 50 meters, and the floating depth will have the water depth less than 1,000. It means that the water depth is more than 50 meters and less than 1,000. But I'm not sure in over the world how many is the floating offshore energy is operating and is the development.
Okay, thank you so much. I think the
meeting is a very general study conducted by World Bank, so I could not explain for you more detail about the floating offshore.
Yes. Thank you so much for the explanations. Can I see the latest one? It's asking about what's the state of the registered offshore wind or offshore project? Do they have the FS? Do they have a measurement? Thank you. Measurement.
What is the status of the register? Actually, at the moment, we already received the official proposal and register the Thăng Long wind project, offshore wind project, like the Kega. You already hear about the Thăng Long and Kega offshore wind project in the Bình Thuận with more than 2,000 at 3,400 megawatt, and the other one only is in the paper, and some proposal is not detailed, and MOIT requests the developer to prepare and develop the FS as well as the proposal, technical proposal, and the financial proposal. And until now, only the Thăng Long and Kega project.
Change my slides here or what? Can I do here or not? Here, down, yeah. No. There.
Sorry.
There.
Sorry.
Yeah, Mr. Oliver. Please.
Yes. Sorry.
Yes. I'm sorry.
You get my idea?
Yes, I get. Yes, I get your point. Yes.
Yep.
I noticed that we didn't have too much questions from our audience, so maybe I think we maybe just give the way to Mr. Yes. To give the Mr. Garner, and yes, thank you so much for Mr. Ming. And
okay, thank you.
Yes, I was told that Ming have 1 hour with us, so if we can finish our presentations before this 1 hour, we'll, yes, if you have any questions for him, that will be get those questions addressed in our Q&A sessions. And as of this, who asking about offshore wind or these things, I think Mr. Garner will give you a pretty much clear analysis of these sectors. So welcome, Mr. Garner.
Great. Thank you very much, Max. Thanks very much for the kind introduction. I hope you can hear me well and you can see the screen.
Excellent. Perfect.
Great. Thank you very much. Yes, so thank you very much again for inviting me to this webinar. Great pleasure to talk about offshore wind in Vietnam. And thanks also very much to the previous speaker for already introducing the topic of offshore wind in Vietnam. So very happy to go into more detail on what's happening in the offshore wind industry in Vietnam. First of all, let me just quickly introduce our organization. So we are the World Forum Offshore Wind. We are a non-profit organization registered in Germany, and we are promoting offshore wind energy worldwide. And we have an international setup with offices in Hamburg and Singapore. And you can see our members, so ranging from utility companies such as RWE, JERA, Northern Power, to manufacturers such as Mingyang, installation firms, service firms, other regional organizations. So really trying to represent the entire offshore wind industry on a global scale and across the entire value chain, from utility company to a financial advisor or legal advisor, and we promote offshore wind on a global scale. So the first important question when talking about offshore wind always is, why do we need offshore wind? And let me just point out a few key reasons. So first of all, offshore, the wind is always stronger and more stable than onshore. So that's always nice from a production pattern point of view, that we have stronger and more stable winds. The second point is that we have a minimal visual impact. So unless onshore wind, when people can always see the wind turbines directly, offshore turbines are much further away and much less of a visual impact. The next point then is usually the proximity to electricity demand. since many big cities around the world are always, or in many cases, located directly on the coast, as for example in China or Vietnam or many other places in the US with East Coast and West Coast. So in many cases, the demand centers for electricity are directly on the coast, and then it's quite nice to have offshore wind farms off the coast, so you can directly link those offshore wind farms into those demand centers, and you don't have to install long transmission lines. So that's in many cases quite a nice advantage. Then the next good point for offshore wind is the proven track record that we have seen by now, especially in Europe. So with countries like Denmark, the UK, Germany, who have already offshore wind farms up and running for 10 or 20 years. We really have this proven track record that we know the technology works, things work, and that is quite, has really given offshore wind quite a high level of technical maturity by now. And then the last point, which might be the most important one, and that is that we've seen significant cost reductions for offshore wind over the past years, so especially the past 5 to 10 years, have really shown that offshore wind can be competitive with other technologies. And that was really the major breakthrough for offshore wind as a technology, that we have managed to bring costs down to a level which is now very competitive with other renewable and also even conventional types of electricity generation. And just to illustrate how the common view on offshore wind has changed, you can see here quotes from an article from The Economist newspaper from 2014, where offshore wind was still considered rather dubious, staggeringly expensive, and among the most expensive ways to marginally reduce carbon emissions. But then only 3 years later, The Economist changed its view and now realized that there was a stunning drop in the costs of offshore wind. They had become an adolescent industry, and they themselves say that only a few years ago, economists derided offshore wind as ludicrously expensive, and now it has, of course, become much cheaper. And if we look at what has been going on a global scale, we can definitely say, I think maybe someone can mute their microphone. I think we have some background noise. Can you just ensure that everybody has muted their microphone? Yeah, great, thank you very much. Oh, there's still some background noise. So I think, can we ensure that everybody has muted their microphone so that we don't have any background noise? Great, thank you very much. So this significant cost reduction that we have seen has really kind of triggered the global expansion for offshore wind, which was previously mainly a European thing, but now, of course, we see very dynamic developments in the US, for example, especially on the East Coast, and in the future also on the West Coast, but of course also in Asia, with countries like Japan, Korea, India already looking at offshore wind, and of course also Vietnam, and therefore very happy to now go into more detail on Vietnam. And as the previous speaker already mentioned, there has been this World Bank report which conducted quite a high-level analysis of the market potential for offshore wind in Vietnam. And indeed, the result was that there is lots of potential, and that wind conditions for offshore wind in Vietnam are actually quite excellent, and that the technical potential, so the theoretical potential, is actually huge. So we can always distinguish between bottom fixed offshore wind and then floating offshore wind. And for bottom fixed, which would be suitable for water depths below 50 meters, the technical potential is 261 gigawatts, the report says. And then for floating, so beyond 50 meters water depth, but still below 1,000 meters water depth, the potential is also enormous, 214 gigawatts. But it's always important to keep in mind that these are just technical potentials. So, but that just means that offshore wind, both bottom fixed and floating, is indeed something that has great potential. How much capacity will be actually installed is always a different question, of course. But here we can just very clearly see that the technical potential is definitely there, excellent wind conditions. So what we now just need is, of course, the entire regulatory framework and the supply chain.
Less than 200?
From a technical potential, there is definitely, it's definitely looking quite promising in Vietnam. And if we now look at what's been happening concretely, we can, of course, already see that quite a few intertidal projects are in operation and under construction. And yeah, intertidal projects are somewhere between onshore wind and offshore wind. So in areas of the sea where at some points due to the tide, you do have offshore conditions, but then when the tide is low, it's pretty much onshore. But it's definitely something that is partly offshore, not far offshore, but already near shore. And we have the Bac-Lieu project already up and running successfully, and there are more intertidal projects being constructed. So I think that's already quite a promising sign how things are developing in Vietnam, and I think quite maybe an interesting step from onshore to offshore. So I think that is definitely a good sign that we see in Vietnam. Next step, of course, would be real offshore projects, which are further offshore and permanently in the water. And as the previous speaker already mentioned, there is the big Kegar offshore wind farm with a total capacity of potentially 3.4 gigawatts. But that's, of course, a huge number. And the plan, as communicated so far, is that the project will be built in 600 megawatt phases. And that is, would be a more manageable size. So 600 megawatts, that would be in the range of what's currently state of the art for new build projects around the world. So starting with 600 megawatts, that would be quite reasonable. And then for this project, we would indeed be talking about a real offshore, 20 kilometers offshore, and the developer is Enterprise Energy. So I think we have some background noise again. So if everybody can make sure the microphone is muted, that would be great. Thank you. Yes, so the developer Enterprise Energy for this project, and that has been in the news frequently with different updates. And I think that is, looking, that's why the offshore wind industry in Vietnam is looking quite promising. And if conclusions, in general, I think we can say that the Vietnam offshore wind market is indeed looking promising with huge technical potential and a very dynamic development that we can see at the moment. And it's definitely an interesting market for bottom offshore wind as well as for floating offshore wind. So that's always important to keep in mind. And what's, of course, required would be the stable and long-term regulatory framework covering the regulation for offshore wind directly, and also things like the grid connection, which is also always very important. So these regulatory aspects need to be in place before then more international interest follows. And I'm sure that will be the case as offshore wind companies from around the world are always very interested in new markets. And we've seen that with markets such as Japan or Taiwan, for example, where there was huge interest from global companies. And I'm sure the same will happen to Vietnam once the stable regulatory framework is in place. And I think then the 2020s can really be the breakthrough for offshore wind in Vietnam. And I think that would be great and really something the global offshore wind community would be delighted to see, another dynamic, flourishing offshore wind market. And hopefully that will be the case for Vietnam in the near future. So that was it from my side. And very happy to answer questions that you may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Garner, for your presentations. And we can see from Mr. Garner that the offshore wind become more affordable and popular, especially in the global and also the South Asia countries. But we still need this environment to help promote this technology. And the next presentations will be given by Oliver. Before we leave the floors with Oliver, and I would like to recommend you guys to mute your microphones. It is very important because we keep hearing the noise from the background, from microphones. I don't know where it's come from. And I think it's still continue. And today's webinar will be recorded and uploaded to our YouTube channel. And literally, emails with the video address will be sent to all registrations. So let's move into our next presentation. Hello, Mr. Oliver, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, I leave the floor with you. Thank you.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much. Starting now. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for having me here in this virtual presentation. My topic is Vietnam onshore and offshore wind energy projects, getting deals done. Ladies and gentlemen, first I want to give you in my agenda latest economic developments. Why do I do that? Because you must know who will be able to pay for these renewable energy projects. So Vietnam's latest economic developments. The statistics are super promising. Vietnam has managed COVID-19 as one of the best countries and still has a positive 3.8 GDP. And Vietnam is the most dynamic country on this planet. Vietnam is the fourth fastest growing high net worth country and has a death zero rate for COVID-19. So economy at glance here, 244 billion. What you can take out of this slide is that you have Vietnam's average age here, very positive demographics, as 30 years old in average of nearly 97 million people. In 3 years, we will be 100 million people. So the demographics are very positive.
Excuse me.
Now, welcome.
Excuse me. Yes, excuse me, Miss Oliver. We cannot see your slide.
Oh.
Yes, you need to share it, open it. Yeah.
Can you not see?
Yeah, we can on the screen.
We share everything.
Maybe you need to share it with yes. With the
Sorry,
applicant window. Yeah.
Can you see now?
No.
Huh?
We share the full screen already.
Maybe please try to share the show your screen or show your slide in
Do it again.
applicant window. Yes. Wait for a second.
Can you see it now?
We can only see the screen instead of your slide.
Man.
We already share everything.
But can you do it again? Stop sharing and then share with Windows. It was with Windows. Can you do it again? Can you get back? No. Yeah, stop sharing. And now start sharing, and there was a Windows application Windows here. No, application Windows. Try this one. Cannot, huh? No, you're right. Sorry.
Maybe we can help you to play this.
Yeah, can you play this and then I get back?
Okay, wait me for a second. Let me find.
Can you see it again?
Wait for a moment. Wait for a second.
On his.
Wait for a second, guys.
Back to one.
Let me check with the slide. Okay. Here we go. Wait for a second. I share with you guys the slide.
you not look on him? Where is he sharing? He said he will share.
Hi guys, see my screen?
Yes, turn it on. Turn it on.
Turn it on.
Okay. So we are on slide. Can you get back? Get back from the beginning. Can you turn it full screen? So can you see my slides now from the beginning?
Yes, I can.
The first page, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so let me go through the agenda. I will talk about Vietnam's latest economic developments here. Please note, it is very, very important. Vietnam is a country that has one of the highest level of international integrations. Why do I say that? Vietnam has signed the EU-Vietnam Free Trade Agreement and the Investment Protection Agreement. The Free Trade Agreement is in force. The IPA will be in force next year. And the CPTPP, Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement. Why do I mention this? Because you have to make use, if you're a developer, and wind energy or solar energy in Vietnam, please make use of the foreign direct investment chapters of these international trade agreements. They will provide you enforceability, highest levels of legal certainty. So the next thing is energy sector overview and potential of renewable energy in Vietnam. Mr. Ming has said a lot, but I will comment additionally. Then current government's policies on wind energy, then renewable power congestion issues, investment guidelines for foreign investors, and my recommendations here. Vietnam's latest developments, economy at a glance. Can you see the slide here? This slide shows that Vietnam has one of the youngest populations in Asia, so the demographics are very good. In average 39 years old with about 97 million people. In 3 years from now on, Vietnam will have about 100 million people. Vietnam is basically one of the most dynamic countries on this planet, and Vietnam is the fourth fastest growing high net worth country. So Vietnam had 0 death rates in COVID-19, so managed it as one of the best countries. So welcome to the most dynamic country on this planet. You can see that here, the growing middle class. Vietnam has one of the fastest growing middle classes of all Asian nations. This is very important for paying electricity. Increasing foreign direct investment. As I told you at the beginning, Vietnam has signed CPTPP, EU-Vietnam Free Trade Agreement. Vietnam will be the next manufacturing hub of Asia. Why? Because China does not have a free trade agreement with the European Union, and thousands of companies are moving out of China now into Vietnam. So Vietnam is poised to grow. So you see that here, Southeast Asia growth rates, Vietnam, one of the highest, over 6%. The fourth fastest growing high net worth country, you can see that here, Vietnam with 10.1%. Energy sector background. Let me tell you at the beginning, short and midterm, Vietnam will face an energy crisis. Electricity demand is expected to increase up to 240 billion kilowatt hours in 2020, and then to 632 billion kilowatt hours in 2030. You see that step. Electricity providing in the period of provision in the period of from 2016 to 2030 is expected to reach 80,500 megawatt, which is basically 15,000 megawatt short for the project demand. So there will be an energy crisis here that is not disputed. Electricity of Vietnam holds a monopoly in electricity transmission distribution. Ladies and gentlemen, please note, but in 2 years from now on, EVN will lose its monopoly, and Vietnam is already starting to do Genco, also pilot projects for liberalizing wholesale electricity market. So if you plan now with wind energy, offshore or onshore, you will run in that period. So the project documents must include, and it's very key, your option, your right to choose. If you don't have that, you lose out. Petro-Vietnam, under the control of Ministry of Industry and Trade, has administrative authority over oil and gas activity in Vietnam. Vinacomin is to assure the supply of coal. Vietnam is still heavily relying on coal. That's a problem for climate change, and they want to change it. Vietnam has signed the Paris Agreement. Potential for renewable energy in Vietnam here, the potential is very high. You can see that hydropower here, you have 27,800 megawatt, 27,800 megawatt. Biomass, you have potential 2.1% total electricity production in 2030. Then wind. Let me say it like this: the World Bank study was very positive on over 200 gigawatt for wind, but this is what comes from the government is more realistic in PDP 7 and will also be expanded in PD Power Development Master Plan 8. It's about 6 gigawatt. That's very realistic. This is what the Vietnamese want to do in short term and mid-term here. Solar, the potential is 12,000 megawatts, so 12 gigawatt. Ladies and gentlemen, 3 years ago there was no solar projects here in Vietnam. Now you see that we have approved capacity 8.5 gigawatt. Vietnam is a country on earth that developed solar as one of the fastest. So Vietnam's electricity energy mix, you can see that here Vietnam policy emphasizes the need to diversify the country's energy mix whilst maximizing the use of local energy reserves. Currently, Vietnam is developing an energy mix sector with a mainstay of coal-fired power. Coal production, World Bank does not longer support. When the Vietnamese delegation went to the World Bank about 2 years ago and said, can you help us to finance coal? The World Bank showed them the finger, sorry to say that, and said, no, we don't like coal anymore, we don't finance coal anymore. So the Vietnamese government is now well aware that coal-fired power plant financing is a real problem, so they move away from that. They might even, that's my latest information from Dr. Tuan, the director of the Institute of Energy in the MOIT, Ministry of Industry and Trade, delete some of the coal-fired power plant on the plan. So the structure of power sources of total electricity production, that is still PDP 7, Power Development Plan number 7. You must know that the Vietnamese, as Mr. Minh mentioned, are now developing PDP, Power Development Plan number 8, and this will include much more renewable energy here. You can see that you have still a high percentage coal, then you have hydropower, and pretty low percentage of renewable energy. The structure of power sources of total installed capacity here, you can see this. It's about roughly over 10, close to 20% is renewable energy, a little bit lower, and then the rest is the coal. Then you have gas turbines. Ladies and gentlemen, one very important thing, and the government has made very clear that they also, as an alternative, want to import liquefied natural gas. So they're banking on gas for the energy mix too, very heavily, so to get rid of coal. Current government's policies on wind energy, here, that's the electricity law. I do not want to bother you with that. I will only highlight the most important things here. The revised power development plan, the PDP 8. Ladies and gentlemen, if you develop a wind energy plant in Vietnam, please make use of the latest news, public-private partnership laws and the BOT laws. Why? Because they help you, if you go utility scale, to basically get a bankable PPA. That is the absolute key for your project. And please make use of the CPTPP and the IPA investment protection agreements. If you do not do that, you lose out. Now, current wind energy projects that have signed PPAs, let me walk you through that here. You see, I don't want to comment on that. I don't want to repeat that anymore. But you see a total of 40 wind energy projects that have signed PPAs. I myself have worked on 20% of those projects. And I can tell you, whenever we went and we applied for utility scale, 100 megawatt upwards, we tried to include that, get that included in the Power Development Master Plan, and to do it as a BOT. And we got, in some of them, a relatively acceptable power purchase agreement. There's nothing perfect here, and I'm alerting you for the future. You have to plan very carefully to get a bankable PPA. Is that possible? The new standard wind PPA is a step in the right direction and provides for example, alternative dispute resolution. But I would advise you to go and list it in the BOT master plan, and then you can negotiate. And also, the door opens for you to the Prime Minister. And if you have large-scale projects like offshore wind anyway, you should emphasize that you won't develop the project if you don't get a bankable PPA. Have we done it in the past? Yes, I have done it in the past, and some of the projects, I can even say, have a PPA that is, yes, close to bankable. Nothing is perfect, but we got good PPA, relatively good PPAs, acceptable PPAs here. So current wind projects have signed PPAs. You can see that here. Start with Bahia, Baklio, and ends with Taiyuan here. So you see the numbers. So wind to electricity projects overview, onshore wind projects, any wind project which has been grid connected, wind turbines constructed and operated in mainland coastal areas, of which the outer boundary is the average lowest sea edge for many 18.6 years. Offshore wind, I don't want to run you through the definition, it's not so important. What is critical here, the feed-in tariff, is 8.5 US dollar cent for onshore projects, 9.8 US dollar cent for offshore projects. Now here, FIT only applies to parts or entire wind projects COD before, if the COD, commercial operation date, is before 1st of January 2021. The period for the enjoyment of FIT is, in average, 20 years from COD. Very important, the MOIT, as Mr. Ming mentioned that in his presentation, has applied to extend the FIT to end of 2023, so another 2 years. I'm very positive on that this will be approved in the next weeks or months. So, wind to electricity projects overview again. For projects COD after 1st of November 2021, there will be a new FIT price, feed-in tariff price for the period from 1st of November 2021 to 31st of December 2023. And after that, there will be an auction system. That is very clear. Vietnam is moving into an auction system. PPAs are based on the PPA template. But ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, it's very critical. If you go utility scale project and you get your project listed on the BOT PDP master plan as a BOT project, and you make use of the PPP, public-private partnership laws, and you make use of the International Investment Protection Agreement, for example, the IPA of the European Union, you can even agree on an amended PPA. And have we done it? Have I done it? Yes, I have done it, and it worked. So it is very important that you make use of these international FDIs, foreign direct investment chapters, because they provide you the highest level of legal certainty and enforceability. Now, wind PPA template, let me say, there are some improvements, as I said. I don't want to walk you through, just give you the gist out of this presentation, is that for the first time, the parties can agree on international dispute resolution. A part of the international dispute resolution, there you can see, is agreed in the IPA, an investment protection agreement between Europe and Vietnam, is ISDS, Investor State Dispute Settlement. If you have the chance, you should basically optimize your project documents, and it's very critical that you put a change in law clause in. So once the ISDS effectiveness hits, you have the choice to make use of it. Now here, of course, the template is per se still not bankable, but of course, it's very key that you go for utility scale, and then you have to argue, you can argue with EVN Electricity Vietnam for a better PPA. Has this been done in the past? Yes. I have bankable PPAs in my drawer here in my office for wind energy project. So don't worry, we have EU-Vietnam Free Trade Agreement. You can see that here, the IPA, the Investment Protection Agreement, and the CPTPP. The IPA implements the so-called investor-to-state dispute settlement mechanism. Investors can claim in case that an investor protection obligation has been breached. Very, very important. Offshore enforcement, meaning if you win the ISDS case, ladies and gentlemen, listen carefully. If you win the ISDS case, for example, in Singapore or in New York, you sit yourself into a taxi, you drive to the next airport, you submit the award, the ISDS award, to customs, and you can enforce offshore. Vietnam has agreed in these international agreements to offshore enforcement for ISDS. Then you have the highest leverage you can get. So make use of that. So now next slide, I want to talk a little bit about non-recourse financing, because I get a lot of requests from my clients. What is it? The project can be financed with a loan secured by a charge on specific assets or on the revenues generated from a specific project or assets. How to obtain here? Option 1, develop the project by way of entering, and here you see again, into a BOT build, operate, transfer contract with the government, as it is the government who will own the project at the end. Upon the expiration of the BOT contract will be more bankable. The non-recourse and limited recourse financing arrangements can be achievable. Option 2, to seek guarantee from the MIGA, Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency. You have to know that MIGA is basically an insurance paper for those who don't know. The Vietnamese government has made very clear that it does not provide fully fledged government guarantees anymore, like it has been done in the projects FUMI 2.2, FUMI 3, 20 years ago I was involved. This time is over. The Vietnamese government has very limited forex reserves, foreign exchange reserves. So you have to work with other solutions, and one solution of this can be MIGA. The World Bank is very positive on Vietnam's renewable energy development, so to get MIGA is absolutely possible. Option 3, to cooperate with state-owned commercial bank for its guarantee of the project and then negotiate with lenders to eliminate all recourses that lenders may ask from the sponsors or the borrowers. Why? You have to understand that if you have an official cooperation with the state-owned commercial banks, they are considered as government officials. If they don't provide you, if they are in the deal and they don't provide you or help you to do a bankable PPA, that might hit them back. I don't want to go too much into detail. Later I can answer question on that, but this is key because they are government officials and they are on the compliance rules. So this is the key, and if you have the chance to go into a joint venture with one of the largest banks, Vietcombank, Vietinbank, BIDV in Vietnam, then please do it, because they will do the legwork, they will help you. EVN bankable now. EVN is assigned an issue default rating here of BB with a stable outlook for long-term foreign currency from Fitch Ratings, EVN's first and positive credit rating. This is based on EVN's long linkage to the state, more assurance to the private sector, of course, and commercial lenders about the financial technical capacity of EVN. Let me tell you my personal experience. I'm practicing in Vietnam for over 20 years, and the track record of EVN to honor its commissions for such large projects and to honor the PPA of FUMI 2.2, for example, and FUMI 3, one of the first gas-fired foreign finance projects in Vietnam, is flawless. They have a flawless track record. So, are there congestion issues? Mr. Ming has mentioned it. Renewable energy, power energy congestion issues? Yes, the answer is yes. Why? The grid is not ready. The Vietnamese government is very clear that they have to basically update the grid, and they're working on that now. So it's not a question whether they can get an upgraded grid, but when that will happen. Here, you see here power congestion issues in June 2019, and then you see that in December 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to understand the background of Vietnam. Historically, Vietnam had one 500 kilowatt line from the north to the south, and then they had 50 feed-in points. That's it. They had about 50 power plants, 50 gigawatt, about 50 gigawatt, and that's it. Now, they have alone from Ninh Thuận province, 350 approved projects with searching grid connection agreements with EVN. So it's a natural thing that the grid is totally overburdened. So they have to update it, and they're working on that now. Now I give you some investment guidelines for foreign investors, how you should go about when you start to develop projects in Vietnam. Here, market access form of investment. You have to understand one thing. Vietnam, listen carefully, has one of the most liberalized market access service sector commitments. What does it mean? It means you as a foreigner are legally allowed to establish a 100% foreign-owned project company. Why I mention that? Because I compare with other countries in ASEAN, for example, Philippines, where maximum you can get for your project entity is 40%. And then you have to bridge it to 51%. It's a disaster. So Vietnam is very positive on that and very liberal. So you can establish your 100% foreign-owned project entity here, and you have an optimum of control. Here you see my analysis on this WTO analysis of liberalization of market access for all commercial sectors, not only for renewable energy. Vietnam is on par with Singapore here with regard, has the most liberalized sectors with regard to number of open sectors, joint venture requirements or not, limits of foreign owned shares, permission requirement. So if you as an investor still discuss in what country in Southeast Asia you would establish, you see it says it all, you should come to Vietnam. Financing options for power projects here, government investment funding and preferential policies are in place. ODA, I would say no, you cannot really count on that. Loan from commercial banks or financial institutions. Remember MIGA, then the CDM, the Clean Development Mechanism. Vietnam has laws for the Clean Development Mechanism. You can apply this. And of course, the last one, public-private partnerships. The Economic Committee of the National Assembly invited me some weeks ago to present and comment on the new PPP laws. So it's a very positive development, the new PPP laws, and please, ladies and gentlemen, make use of these PPP laws in the form of BOT. As I said, here, BOT, the best investment form here. Why? Not only if you get it listed on the BOT master plan and accepted as a BOT project, listen carefully, land use rights are free. The state will allocate you the land. So this is very, very critical. It's basically very positive if you use the large-scale BOT investment structure and get it listed. Precedent for successful BOT power projects in Vietnam are the Phu My projects. As I told you, I was 20 years ago involved in both Phu My 2.2, Phu My 3, then Vung Ang, Mong Duong 2, Dong Quat 2, Song Hao 2, and many others. So go for BOT if you go utility scale. Investment incentives, here I want to go very short here. You have basically land use right exemption if you go BOT. And then CIT, corporate income tax, 10%, 15 years for new enterprises investing in power plant projects, tax exemptions within 4 years, and tax reduction by 50% in the next 9 years. Import duty exemption, of course, I mean, everything that you basically import and forms fixed of the assets of the project will be import duty free. Has there been problems in the last years with regard to this? The customs has never made any issues in the projects I was involved. So they walk their talk. That is important for you to know. Project planning. Investors have to obtain prior agreement of EVN on power purchase and prior to licensing procedure. So you have to approach EVN right at the beginning. Commitment of banks and credit institutions on financing. The project must be obtained prior to issuance of the IRC, Investment Registration Certificate. Ladies and gentlemen, please note, the licensing environment in Vietnam has improved tremendously. 5 years ago, I could not tell you how long it would take me to get you the investment registration certificate and the enterprise registration certificate, the license. This time, I can tell you exactly almost by the day. So this is basically a result from the policy of the new Prime Minister Nguyen Xuan Phuc, and it is a very positive development in Vietnam. Then you need, in principle, approval of the local People's Committee. It is required prior to issuance of the IRC, the Investment Registration Certificate. You obtain a power generation permit from the competent state authorities in order to conduct power generation operations in Vietnam, MOIT, Ministry of Industry and Trade, or DOLT, basically in the province's Department of Industry and Trade. Term of the permit, maximum 20 years for large power plants with particularly important meaning to economy, society, national defense, and so on, and 10 years for other power plant projects. The permit cannot be renewed, but the investor may apply for a new one within 60 days prior to expiry date of the current permit. Now I walk you through project licensing steps. I guide you. So what you have to know is make use of it. If you want to develop a project, just use this slide. First, step one. As investor, you obtain approval from the competent authority. Prime Minister, if it's a BOT project, approving the power plant as part of the power development plan. Step two. The investor obtains in principle approval from the competent People's Committee or other competent authorities subject to project scale. Step three. Application for issuance of the investment registration certificate and the enterprise registration certificate. How long does it take to establish your project entity? As I've told you, I can tell you now, it takes about 3 months. That's it. Step four, preparation of construction operations of the power plant, for example, acquiring land area, site clearance, preparation, land investigation, land use right due diligence. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to do your homework. Vietnam is one of the most densely populated countries in Asia. So getting land use right and getting proper land use rights is absolutely critical. Step five, the project company to obtain necessary permits, for example, electricity generating permit and the relevant agreements, PPA for it, and the power plant's operation. Step six, construction of the power plant in operation. My recommendation for investors, make use of public-private partnership laws, the form BOT. That should be the first option. Due care on negotiations of the PPA and grid connection agreements with EVN. Approach EVN very, very early. Number three, electricity selling in off-grid areas can be a good choice. You get preferable access. Then you must have sound financing structure, good business model, and great legal assistance are keys to the success. Accurate prediction of where the market is heading to in the context of Vietnam. I mean, I've told you that Vietnam is one of the fastest growing countries in Asia. Amid the COVID-19 crisis, Vietnam has still a positive GDP of 3.8 for 2020. It's amazing. More pressure on the government to adequately address key issues on tariff increase, demonopolization of the power market and government. Guarantee how you can do that. Make use of the very many business associations. The German Business Association here, I'm member to the board. They can help you. The American Business Association, I'm also member, and Australian, and so on. So make use of these business associations. They're critical. They give you the backup. Vietnam's market is extremely in need of financing and EPC capability. There are rooms for cost-effective and high-quality EPC contractors and resourceful lenders here. So please come. In many cases, you can test the water with a small power plant project and then climb the ladder and do large ones. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Connections are business. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. Thank you.
Thank you so much for Mr. Oliver's presentations. And it's very informative, just like I said, it's a formatic bomb. And the next presentations will be given by Mr. Quang Yen. Hello, Mr. Quang Yen, are you there? Hello? Can you hear me, Mr. Quang Yen?
Hear me?
Yes?
Okay, I'm going to share my screen now.
Yes.
Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes. Clear.
Okay, good.
Excellent.
Okay, good. Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. This is Korean from Minyoung Smart Energy. I'm glad that, and also many thanks to the organizer to allow us to make this presentation. This presentation is not only about what Minyoung is, also about sharing our experience, even our lessons we learned from the the application somewhere else outside of Vietnam, which I think that will be benefit from for our development in Vietnam. So a short introduction of Minyoung company. Minyoung is the top 3 wind turbine suppliers in China, and in total we have delivered 23 gigawatts of wind turbines so far. And we ranked number 6 worldwide in 2019. And this is some features of Minyoung. We have more than 10,000 people, workers, and we have more than 16 facilities, which I will mention again later. We were listed in New York Exchange stock market in 2010, and after privatization, we went public again in Shanghai, China, last year, 2019, in January. It enables us a more dynamic solution for project financing and R&D, investment, and so on. Okay, here comes the more like a technically oriented part of my presentation. Here, please take a look. This is how our facilities located. I'd like to point out for Vietnam, unless we are going to have our own facilities in Vietnam later, these three facilities I'm pointing with my mouse are the closed facilities, production lines to Vietnam. I mean, in the world. It's only like 900 kilometers away from the market, Vietnam in general, and we build these facilities direct on the harbor. That means we can just make the blade as long as it requires, and then we can just go to the harbor and use the sea logistics to transport the blade and the turbine, everything, and tower. And here are some a brief distribution of our offices and check orders. Here I'd like to point out for Vietnam development of wind, one crucial problem is that we all facing the deadline of October-November 2021 if we want to keep this effective price. And that's happening right in China. We have about to make a COD for up to 50 gigawatt wind projects in China, and that will be happening in Vietnam next year. So that's why it's important to point out why this and the product is crucial to secure the price, effective price. As Minyoung itself, we have the main business models consist not only the supply of the wind turbine, R&D, everything, maintenance, but also, like I just mentioned, that because we are the public listed company, we can also do our own investment or help our customer to do the project financing until the COD, something like that. Here I'm going to move to the next stage of what's Minyoung's turbine like. Of course, we know that there are many other great companies, suppliers, but what makes Minyoung special because we have almost a unique this drivetrain. Like we call this hybrid drive. It's different from the traditional, conventional double feed and also the direct drive permanent magnet generator. We have a combined solution for with the advantages from both solutions. Like here you can maybe have a better understanding and looking at this picture. Instead of high-speed gearbox, we have a medium speed gearbox, which allows the transmission rate up to 20 to 30 RPM. And that is crucial to secure the reliability of the drivetrain. As all of us know that one of the main reasons for the mechanical failures on the wind turbine is because the high-speed drivetrain and main shaft and the gearbox, everything. So this is why we can guarantee a pretty higher reliability like this. We use one-stage permanent, one-stage battery gearbox transmission, and here we, after have done any operating projects, this is the statistic we can obtain from the project that usually this drivetrain solution can secure reliability up to 98%, which is also very important, especially for offshore application. No matter near shore, far, or the rear offshore. And another highlights of this this hybrid drivetrain is we can build this turbine relatively small and light. Take 4 megawatt turbine, for example. The weight is only 99 ton of the turbine without the blade, of course. And it can build very small, like you can see the dimension, relatively small than the previous generation of the wind turbine, and that can make this the installation on the complex terrain, for example, in mountain area or some other special environments like the offshore, more accessible. So we have a full range of the capacity from 1.5 to 2 megawatts, 3, 4, 5, and now it's 8 to 10. And the main concept is we built this as a platform, and it can be easily adapted to the requirements for the wind farm. Like we can easily adjust the output and the capacity of each wind turbine. And another highlight is the ability to stand typhoon. Where we have the most installation in China, especially in the south, suffers from typhoon a lot. And I think that's a common thing we have to face in all Southeast Asia, including Vietnam, Philippines, Malaysia, and so on. We do this mainly in 3 ways. First, we have we integrate the anti-typhoon features into our design. Based on our big data center, we have this long year records of the typhoon jointly developed with the Meteorologic Bureau worldwide, so we can keep a very accurate this record of what happened before and what likely will be happening each year. And so take southern China, some wind farms in southern China, for example. This is the main route that a typhoon passed in the last few years. Well, actually, since decades. like 2008, and even before that. The frequency of a typhoon occurrence is about 5 times a year. I think maybe it varies from area to area, but in Vietnam, yes, so far some projects we have looked in, the typhoon is which the times of the likelihood of typhoon is maybe 1, 2, or even 3 times a year. And this is what happens if you don't have a reliable, wind turbine. You can just stand the typhoon, and that's something tragically would happen. But on the right side of the page are some of our installed operating projects have been in operation for more than decades. Like the very first prototype, 1.5, is located in the nearshore wind farm established in 2008. So until now, it's around 12 years. And you can do an easy calculation, 5 times typhoon a year, multiply 12 years. That's 60 times in total, in general. And here are some track records of our project for the, especially for the offshore part, 5.5. We have a different scenarios in China because easily when you just live from the coast like 50 meters, the depth of the sea will drop to like 20, 30 meters. So for that sort of installation, we need to consider bigger machine to keep the average cost low as possible. But for Vietnam, that's what we have worked out. For some projects in Vietnam, we have looked into lately that they are not that depth. The sea depth is not so deep, so that gives us the possibility to use the so-called land onshore wind turbine. Onshore wind turbine. And you can do some minor optimization, and then you can use that sort of a wind turbine for offshore application. Of course, you need to do the certification and you need to do the test, everything. But in general, that's an easy way to, on one hand, have a reasonable output. On the other hand, to keep the capex as low as possible, because if you use a bigger machine like a 5.5 or even bigger, then you need to do everything completely different. Like you need unique installation crane and the racks, and also the in general the bigger machine can be more expensive. Here we have a real case for your reference, like in Fujian area, Fujian province, which is also a coastal area in China, a little bit south. Here we have achieved something extraordinary. This is a wind turbine we erected in 2018, and it's a 5.5, the biggest one of the biggest back then. It's no longer the biggest, of course. It was the biggest back then. What we have achieved there is we make this actually for many people it's almost impossible. That we installed this wind turbine. Of course, after the tower is already available for the wind turbine and also the blade, we installed everything within a few hours. So that means when you have a limited time window, because we know that tide, the wind condition, and everything else can affect the practical the time window for your installation. So for this, we have achieved the quickest, the fastest the installation for offshore so far. And besides that, we have the highest output, and we have we are one of the first to pass the low voltage right through. That is a requirement from the local grid company, and so on. And right after that, right after the completion of the installation, our wind turbine has to stand the first typhoon called Maria that year. And there are some the families of our generation types. As I already mentioned, that we have almost the full range of the capacity. So how do we make this anti-typhoon possible? Usually we have three. We have integrated three concepts. The structure design. That means we have the structure design, thanks to, like I just said, that the special design of our drivetrain, the casting, the parts. We don't use a traditional fiberglass nacelle. We use the casting iron parts to form the nacelle and also the hub. And because of the small dimension of the turbine, and we don't have much imbalance in loading when the typhoon comes. And also we have to keep subject to the maximum wind speed. We can optimize the design of the tower and to make this structure safety secured, and also the blade. And control design is another features of our anti-typhoon solution. Here you can see that this is the actual picture of what was shown on our big data center. We follow the formation of each typhoon, and we predict the course of the typhoon, of course, and we can determine the features of the typhoon, and that's the inputs we need before we make our wind turbine adjusted for the typhoon. And there are some features like we have the backup power to allow the position adjustment when the typhoons come and the grid is cut off. Not only that, another new features I'd like to point out is we can not only stand the typhoon, but we can also make use of the typhoon, because we know that the configuration of typhoon is relatively simple. It has a very strong wind arms and a quite peaceful the center, typhoon center. And subject to the development of the typhoon and some part of the wind, we can actually use it. You know, that's especially for some wind farms in like I said, in the South China part of south part of China, where the average wind is relatively low, but the extreme wind is high. So if we can make use of this typhoon smartly, and actually that can make a big contribution to the annual energy yield. We have seen the best example for that the typhoon has contributed to up to 10% of the total output of the yearly power output. And here are some examples in 3 different wind farms. And you can see, I'm sorry that we forgot to translate this part into English, but this is the date when the typhoon happened. And this is the daily electricity output. And see, even in the highest part of the typhoon happened, we can make use of it. I think here the 18.9 meter per second are more typical. There are some other maybe I just gonna skip. So in general, I'd like to add up is because we know that to develop a project, we don't just look at the best design, but we also need to care about how can it come true, can be realized. And we have done some projects using our 4 megawatt platform wind turbine, and for this intertidal area, we can use some very unique solution for the installation. Like we can, in one project we rented a flatboat, and then we use a crawler crane of capacity 650 ton. Such a crawler crane which is more easily to access and is cheaper than the special designed crane system, REX. And for that, we have done some projects for the intertidal area. And another features which a company like us, sophisticated, experienced company can offer is we can work very closely with your engineering institute, because we know that almost every foundation for the intertidal is different. You need to make more or less some modification for each foundation, and to do that, you need your wind turbine suppliers and your engineering institute to work very closely, because then we can do this iteration calculation repeatedly and more effectively. So we can optimize the cost for the tower, for the foundation, which make a big part of the total capex in general, not just the wind turbine itself, but also the installation costs and also the foundation and the tower costs, everything together. As I mentioned, that also for the complex terrain, we know that not besides the in addition to the intertidal offshore, we have a lot of projects online onshore in Vietnam, and some are located in the complex terrain, like the mountains, and also, yeah, for that sort of applications, we also have very unique design. Like we can make a big machine, a big turbine, so that we can reduce the land we need to no matter buy or rent, and we can also save the cost for the foundation construction and the roads and the power transmission, the cable, everything, just inside of the wind turbine, but also the part between the substation to the off-taker substation, that sort of things. That would be all so far, and this is our certifications. Like I said, that we are willing to work with partners from Vietnam to try to meet the deadline, which is very crucial for your IRR, for your investment model at the end of October next year. And in addition, we can jointly make the optimal solution with you to have the maximum output and minimum construction, of course, if not possible, at the same time. Thank you, and we can further discuss any questions if you have. Max?
Yes, I'm here. Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Kwang Yan, for your presentation to introduce Mingyang Smart Energy. Let's just jump into the Q&A sessions. We didn't have too much time left. And I just noticed that some good questions from our attendees, especially from a gentleman or maybe a madam called Maxima. I'm sorry if I have pronounced it wrong of your name. So firstly, I have to say that for now, Mr. Ming and Alexander has to put out this webinars because they have another very emergency meeting needed to be attended. Let's go quickly from these questions. This question is for Mr. Oliver. Mr. Oliver, are you there?
Yes.
You can also check those questions with me in the Q&A. Mr. Oliver. So
Yes.
Our audience asks you, how does the permitting process for securing offshore wind license different from, or is it different from onshore land list in Vietnam? You see these questions?
Yes, I understand. With regard to the IRC, Investment Registration Certificate and Enterprise Registration Certificate, that will be the first step, basically. There is no difference at all. But there is a huge difference if you want to get that project, offshore project, listed on the BOT PDP master plan. And of course, for wind and offshore wind, you need to do that. You must do that. So now it gets a little bit complicated. Listen carefully. First, you establish the project entity with a limited scope of licenses, because you cannot know whether it's BOT listed or not, your project, because this will take longer than 3 months. I told you I can get you the IRC and the ERC in 3 months, roughly 3 months. But for the listing on the PDP master plan, you need probably half a year, if not longer. So basically, first you establish your project entity, then you work out the details with EVN, and then you get it in MOIT, the application to list the project on the BOT master plan. And when you have the approval to get it listed on the master plan, you amend the scope of the project entity license to put this project, your fully fledged investment project, into the amended scope of license. So this is how it works. This is different than for a straightforward onshore wind projects, because there, if you don't need to get them listed or solar projects, you can just establish a project entity and you have the fully fledged scope of license already in. So you have to do that different. I hope that is clear. Thank you.
Thank you so much for Mr. Oliver's the explanations. And I just noticed that Mr. Kwang Yan has explained in his presentation that the Mingyang tried to harness the typhoon to generate the power. So our audience, it's the same questions from the audience. They ask, what is your assessment of the typhoon risks for the offshore wind in Vietnam? Mr. Kwang Yan?
Yeah, Max. Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Well, actually,
Questions?
can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Okay.
You see the question?
Yeah, I understand. I see the question. Thank you for this very interesting question. Actually, it's case by case. Well, but so far, the most wind farm we have made proposal for are more or less have a typhoon. Of course, you need to define what is the real what kind of wind speed. You can call that a typhoon. there is a definition in IC, of course, but in an easy language, the most wind farms, starting from 40 meter per second, 10 millions average wind speed. That's what we can call typhoon, more or less. Of course, we can have a more accurate definition for that. And there's we then will have to come up with a S-class design for this sort of wind farms, which is different from class 1, class 2, and class 3. It's a special design. And if necessary, we will strengthen the plate, the tower, and the structure, everything, information as well. So it's not easy to say that what's the definite effect of the typhoon. We actually, if we can help with everyone that's interested to look at your raw data, and then we can maybe further define that.
Thank you so much. And previously we have mentioned a little bit about the floating offshore wind, and our attendee wanted to know is Mingyang. Mingyang provide the floating offshore wind turbines for now. Hello, Mr. Kuang Yan.
Yeah. Well, that's the floating wind turbine is definitely one of the hottest topics lately for the suppliers. That only applies for wind turbine bigger, according to my knowledge, bigger than 10 megawatts, and far away from the coastline. Like in China, we have a definition for that, double 10 or 10, double 10. The first 10 means that the water depth is bigger than 10 meters, and it's also 10 kilometers away from the coastline. For that sort of wind farm, it's still it's not. You can do both. You can do floating, and you can have the fixed monoply or other type of foundations. But bigger than that and further than that, then the floating will be a very choice. But so far, there's no industry scale of operation of the floating. There are many prototypes and even some small projects. We have done our own design on this, and we are about to introduce our floating next year. But I'm not sure how long it would take to really become commercial, applicable, to be honest.
Yeah, thank you. And I noticed that with me, the timeline is the time set for the webinar is going to expire. So that's one more question we run out of today's webinars. And before we doing that, I noticed that so many attendees require for the speakers the slides or the materials. I would think that I had seen previously that we will email you all of the registrations with a link to the webinar record. But as of these slides, we can only get the proof from our speakers that we are allowed to share these slides with you. If we cannot, we will share the speakers connect with you, or then you can connect with our speakers directly to ask something you are interested by the connect in the email. And the last question is, how do you assess the local sentiment towards wind energy? Is there any particularly strong oppositions from local stakeholders to be taken into account? Hello, is anyone want to answer this question?
Can you repeat the question? Please repeat the question. I didn't understand the question. Can you repeat it? Thank you.
Yes. How do you assess the local sentiment towards wind energy? Is there any particularly strong oppositions from local stakeholders to be taken into account. You can see that. You can also check the questions with me in the Q&A box. The last third one, you see.
Okay, was that question addressed to me or anybody wants to go to answer?
Yes, it's for all. If you have any ideas, you can share.
Okay, then let me first start, if there is nobody else who wants to jump in. The local stakeholders have basically developed, many of them, they have put a lot of work in the development of those wind energy projects, offshore and onshore, but to a high percentage, they do not have the international experience to gather financing and to get that deal really done and to get basically a convincing, a credible deal presentation. This is always, when I see it, the expectations are up high, far too high, and the realistic assessment of the project is sometimes not there. So, and pricing expectations regarding the transfer price are too high, through the roof. But basic line, if this you can avoid this if you teach them, if you approach them early. We have a list of projects, so we can send you a list of wind and solar projects, some greenfield, some ready to build, RTB, ready to build. And there you can see, we can help you, we can work you through that, but mostly you will face this issue, unreasonable expectation of pricing, and basically not really prepared to face international investment, bankability issues, and so on. So these are the issues the Vietnamese lacking: financing, bankability, legal certainty. But if you come in and if you have made use of these international agreements, they're not automatically applicable. But if you make use, if you know the Investment Protection Agreement, EU, European Union, Vietnam, and if you know the CPTPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, Foreign Direct Investor Chapter, then you can make use of them. And then you can basically structure your own project with the highest level, unmatched level of legal certainty. I hope that helps. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Oliver. Yeah, I noticed that there's no more questions inputted from our audience. I noticed some attendees raise their hand. Mr. Kim Ki-hor, if you have any questions. I didn't see any questions be submitted. So thank you so much. Yes, thank you so much for the speakers, all speakers. Thank you so much, Mr. Thank you so much to Mr. Wu Kwangming, Gunnar Herzig, Oliver Mansman, and also Kwang Yan, taking time during this webinar to share your knowledge with all of the guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much to all. Thank you.
Thank you.